Okay, so I'm going to be pretty quick. I teach first grade. This is my 9th year teaching. Actually, it'll be 10 on Friday. Woot woot. So I taught my first 7 in kindergarten. I'm a very hyper teacher. I am ADD to the extreme. Probably ADHD. Absolutely, yes, I am. But I noticed that even me, as much as I am all over the place with my kids, I was still competing for their attention. I'm competing with disabilities that they have, learning disabilities. I'm competing with their attention spans, which we all know is ever shortening, with the use of devices and gaming and just all kinds of different factors come to play when it comes to fighting for their attention in the classroom. And gross and fine motor skills. Anyone seen issues more and more with gross and fine motor skills? Okay, yes, it's my spirit animal. Yeah, I liked all your stuff too. That's where my idea came from. I follow Top Dog Teaching. It's a lady out of one of the Dakotas, I think. Yeah, North Dakota or South Dakota, I'm not sure. But her name's Kayla Deltzer, and she's the guru of flexible seating. So that's what I wrote my grant on after I followed her on Instagram for a couple of years. And when I made the transition from kindergarten to first grade, I just really felt like it was time to change my room up, change the physical structure of my classroom, because we're all using different strategies every year. We're differentiating in our classroom with our instruction and our implementation of different strategies. So I wanted to do something to the physical structure of my classroom to improve my students' attention span and hopefully eliminate a lot of behavior problems that I was seeing this year. So flexible seating. Why flexible seating? Well, burns calories, improves gross and fine motor skills, increases motivation and engagement, and it gives them a little bit of wiggling space without causing a disruption in your classroom. You have those kids who constantly have to get up on the floor while you're teaching. I need to go to the restroom. I need to sharpen my pencil. I need a tissue. Okay, I have seen a huge decrease in those issues now that I have the flexible seating. And I think it's just because they need to wiggle. When we sit here for 45 minutes, what are you doing? Are you wiggling your feet? Are you tapping your feet? Are you changing which leg you have crossed? Okay, that's because we constantly need that movement, and they do too. Or I do anyways. Okay, should our 21st century classrooms look like this? No. If it does, you're doing it wrong. This is not the way it works anymore. This is not, this to me looks robotic and just completely boring. I did not want my classroom to look like this. So I wanted to change up the physical structure of my classroom, and this is basically what I've already said. I was seeing an issue of needing more brain breaks between transitions. Okay, that's a loss of instructional time. I know I like them. I'm all for, okay, class, let's take a brain break. Let's do some wiggles, go back. How hard is it to get them to transition back after you do a brain break or a wiggle break? It's hard, right? Especially if you do a big one like Go Noodle, which I love. My classroom was Go Noodled last year. However, how much time do you lose trying to get them back on track? You do, right? I mean, you hate to say it because you love it, but you do. You lose momentum. So I wanted to get ahead of the issue instead of redirecting the issue and redirecting the problem of losing their attention. So what I used my money for was I already had flexible seats, already had the crate seats, I already had stationary stools without backs, and I already had and kept my tables from kindergarten, and I raised them. Okay, so that's what I already had in place that I'd used with my own personal money, but that stuff's expensive. So when I got this grant, I purchased kick bands, which are called bouncy bands, for my stationary desks, because some kids have to have that back support. They can't sit in a backless chair all day, and I let my kids move around. So these were really inexpensive. They were like $8 a pop, so I was able to get 10 around my 2 back tables. And then I also purchased 3 standing desks, and I chose to purchase the horizontal shaped ones so that I could pod them together and I can move them around, because I also already had those tennis balls on the bottom, so I can just scoot them wherever I need them. The kids choose and they get up and move whenever they want. They know not to do it while I'm teaching because, teaching time is my time. But when I say, okay, break, independent work time or group work time, they know which partners to get in with, and they know they can go to a flexible seat. These are also their assigned seats throughout the day. I started this on day 1. So I replaced my crate seats with wobble stools, which I purchased with this grant. These wobble stools came from School Specialty, and they were called Neo Nook stools. And they took up about $500 or $600 for 10 of them. And I chose the ones that were small enough for first graders, but I knew that they would be growing. So as I saw that some kids were growing and getting too big for the wobble stools, I would transition them to the standing stools or the standing desks or the regular desk. They really like this, and this is a video. I don't know how to play that. You can see this he's a smart kiddo, but he is wiggly. Any chair I put him in, I bet he falls out of it like 20 times a day. He's just super, super wiggly, but he loves... Oh, can you not play it? It's okay if not. I did it on Google Slides, so that's probably... But anyways, in the video, you can see he's very engaged in his silent reading time during AR. We have AR for about 30 minutes a day. And I saw progress in him with his AR points and his STAR score during this time because he was able to have a little bit of wiggle room with the wobble seat. He wasn't getting up unengaged. He was staying engaged, staying in his book. We also have iPads through another grant, so he knew that he could get an iPad to take his AR test. But you can see in the video, his little feet are just twitching, and I don't even know sometimes how he stays in his seat, because I'll watch him, and he has his little feet wrapped around the bottom, and he's almost totally laying down on the floor. But, it's just whatever. He's so engaged, and he is a top student. And this little student's the same way. So I let them move around seats, but I also know which kids I need in which seats. You can't tell it walking into my classroom, but I also have oppositional defiant disorder. I have Asperger's. I have autism. I have several ADHD, but I have a top-notch group. They are a high-performing, high-functioning. You walk into my classroom, I promise you'll be impressed with their language and their interaction and their engagement. And the only thing that I changed was the physical structure of my classroom. And I allowed them choice. I gave them responsibility. We have rules with the flexible seat. You abuse it, you lose it, just like anything else. I have no behavior problems. And prior to this, I was doing maybe 1 to 2 disciplinary referrals, like in-school detention, a month. So I had some difficulties, but top-notch group. Top-notch group this year. So, and I think it had a lot to do with the ability for them to move around without the distraction and the interruption with the rest of the class. And my data, I did not put a slide in here with my data, I apologize, but I used the Class Dojo behavior management. Are you guys familiar with that? Yeah, okay. I use Class Dojo to kind of monitor my progress, and that's where I found that prior to implementing the flexible seats that I got with the grant, I had a lot more points lost than points gained. And when I pulled up, especially those individual students, when I pulled them up, now they're at over 50% positive feedback and less than 50% negative feedback now with the flexible seats. So it's made a huge improvement in my classroom, the dynamic, the climate, the culture, so much better. Kids want to come to school. Other classrooms pass down the hallway, they peep in, they're like, I want to go in here next. I want this teacher next, or I want to come and see what's going on in here. So. And it's just really improved academics, like I said, culture, climate, my rapport with my students rapport with each other, just by giving them a little bit of choice and control with the flexible seats. So, and that's it.